Sau đây chúng tôi xin mời quý vị cùng theo dõi chương trình phỏng vấn đặc biệt với hai đạo diễn của bộ phim Ride the Thunder do Dan Trần thực hiện.
Xin kính chào quý vị khán giả đài SPTN Texas. Chúng tôi là Dan Trần. Ngày hôm nay là ngày đặc biệt, có anh Richard Botkin từ California đang thăm viếng chúng ta tại Dallas, và anh Tuấn Nguyễn. Hai người đó, anh Tuấn Nguyễn bay từ Florida và anh Richard là tác giả của cuốn Ride the Thunder, cưỡi ngọn sấm, và là producer, là nhà sản xuất cuốn phim cưỡi ngọn sấm Ride the Thunder. Xin kính chào anh Richard. Mời anh Richard say hello to the people. Yeah.
Come on, thank you for having us on. It's great to be here. It's great to talk to the Vietnamese community.
Anh Tuấn, mời anh chào khán giả.
Chúng tôi là Tuấn Nguyễn, từ Florida, xin có lời thân ái chào đến tất cả quý vị đang theo dõi đài SPTN Dallas.
Vâng, kính thưa quý vị, như quý vị đã biết, Ride the Thunder là một cái movie mà nói lên sự thật về chiến tranh Việt Nam. Richard, let me ask you this question. I know that I already watched the movie. You let me watch first, and I'm so impressed. That's why I asked you to come here, and you just fly over in a heartbeat. Would you tell my SPTN Texas audiences why Ride the Thunder? What messages you send to the world?
The message of Ride the Thunder is just about getting history right, telling the truth. The truth about the Vietnam War, Dan, has not been told. What I've learned, I've been doing this since 2003. People don't read, and the historical record is going to be determined by film. And the film record right now is not good. It's Apocalypse Now, Platoon, Full Metal Jacket, Good Morning Vietnam. All of these films portray the American fighting man as a drug-addicted baby killer, the American leadership as bad, and the South Vietnamese are portrayed even worse. We need to set that straight. That cannot be the historical record. And soon, American veterans of the Vietnam War dying at 400 a day, and we're losing our Vietnamese too. So if we don't set it straight now, the communists are going to win for sure the battle for history.
What you're saying that Americans people don't read. What do you mean by that? Would you elaborate about that, and why they don't read? That mean we did not hearing the truth about Vietnam?
Well, it's just been my experience, and I've read this in studies that people don't read, and I just know that people do not read good books. Whether they read, there are a number of great books about Vietnam, but they're just not widely read. Americans will read the sports page. They'll read about People magazine and Caitlyn Jenner. They don't have informed opinions, and it's so important for people to have what I call an intelligent patriotism. They need to know, we all love America, all of us here love America, we love Vietnam, but it's got to be more than emotion. You have to be able to articulate why America was the good guys. We were right to stop the communists in Vietnam, because communism is bad. Communism is evil. Communism kills people.
Liars.
They're liars, and the history will bear that out if people would study that. The only way that we felt we could reach people was not with our book, was with our film. We could tell a compelling story about some good American Marines and some good South Vietnamese Marines, tell their story, and their story is everybody's story. And by telling that story, we're hoping to turn the tide back to truth and secure a proper place in history, a place of honor for the Americans who fought there and for the South Vietnamese who opposed communism.
Wow, you mentioned when you speak, you mentioned about intelligent patriotism.
Yes.
Kính thưa quý vị, anh Richard Botkin mentioned about, nói về cái chữ là intelligent patriotism, là một người yêu nước, mà yêu nước là phải sáng suốt, và kính thưa quý vị, và yêu nước một cách chân thành và phải hành động. Đó là một cái intelligent của người patriot, right? So thank you, Richard, and let me have anh Tuấn. Anh Tuấn, you are from Florida, and what role you play with the activity in Florida, thưa anh?
Chúng tôi là Tuấn Nguyễn, là một thường theo dõi và tranh đấu những cái tranh đấu cho nhân quyền cho Việt Nam nói chung, và chúng tôi cũng làm trong ban truyền thông của cái Liên minh Trong một Việt Nam Tự do và Dân chủ, tiếng Anh gọi là CFDV Channel. CFDV là stand for Coalition for a Free and Democratic Vietnam. I would like to ask Richard a question. through a lot of books that I happened to read on the Vietnam War, most of the time, the South Vietnamese was portrayed as corrupt and also incompetent. What made you think otherwise?
My own research. You're right. Many of the books written about the Vietnam War were written by people who are leftists, communists, have communist leanings. That's simply not the truth. I mean, the South Vietnamese had problems. There were problems of corruption. There were problems with bad units. But especially as the Americans were leaving, the war got Vietnamized and the Vietnamese military did improve. The history bears that out, but very few people have taken the time to study that and find that out.
But how did you come? So at the time you read those books, you also have the same thought. So what made you think that, oh, that might not have been the truth that I've been following?
Well, in 2003, I was fortunate to meet Le Ba Binh, my main Vietnamese character, and some of the American Marines who were advisors to the Vietnamese Marines. And these are men I have tremendous regard for. And all of the American Marines, all of them, loved the Vietnamese they served with. And these are people I respected. So when I did my research and met more of the Vietnamese, all of that proved to be true. And then when I looked at the research, I realized why the South Vietnamese lost the war. And ultimately, in my opinion, and I think history bears it out, they lost the war because the American Congress cut funding for the Vietnamese military. It was that simple.
Well, Richard, you talking about Le Ba Binh, Major Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel, the last rank he has, and the American counterpart advisor, John Ripley. He's a colonel now.
He retired as a colonel. He was a captain at Dai Huy when he was.
So how long have you known both of them, and would you tell our audience about their characters and how they fought for the country, Vietnam particular, and how you get to know them and how you regard them?
John Ripley, I knew him from 2003 until he died in 2008. He was considered a superstar, a rock star in the American Marine Corps. A man of character, very brave, and just very well regarded. Le Ba Binh is every bit as much the hero that Ripley was. He's still alive, so I've known him from 2003 until today. He is a man of tremendous character. Now, he represents, in my book, in the movie, his generation. 13 years, from 1962 to 1975, fought the communists for 13 years. He was wounded 9 times. When the war ended, he got put in prison for 11 years. The first 5 years, no communication with his wife. She didn't know if he was dead or alive. He got let out, and a couple of years later, he came to the United States, started with nothing, and succeeded. It's a great story. It's the story of so many Vietnamese. So he is a representative of the entire generation of Vietnamese who came here. And one concern I have is that story gets transmitted to the next generations. I don't think the Vietnamese elders have done a good job of sharing that information.
You're right about that. Anton, you have any ideas about how do you bring the message of Ride the Thunder to American audience, like especially a second generation of Vietnamese Americans?
Yeah, I would like to convey the message especially to the Vietnamese American, the younger generation, because being Vietnamese, sometimes we get into the habit. The parents never transmit, never relay all the suffering, all the ordeal they have gone through in their life in order to sacrifice for their children. They want their children to be brought up and born and brought up in the perfect world. So that's why they usually hide those sad moments, memory. But also now, with this movie, Richard, he did a great job in speaking on their behalf to tell the true story, so the younger generation could understand what their parents have fought for freedom, what have they sacrificed for in prison, on the way, leaving Vietnam to protect their kids here. So in a way, that would help to close the generation gap between the younger Vietnamese American and the older Vietnamese that fled the country to came here to remake their life in America. So I think that is very important.
Yeah, I don't want to give away a lot of scene in the movie that I watch, and I love it. One of the gap that the younger generation did not know about a mother, represented by Miss Phim, right. Lieutenant Colonel Le Ba Binh's wife. She's suffering, waiting for her husband 5 years. Didn't know where he about, in a concentration camp. The communists call them re-education. What re-education is? A concentration camp. But anyway, the younger generation have to know the way that you send the message to them, how suffering and how the audio that Mrs. Come have to go through to visit her husband in the camp. So that's a powerful messages that sent to the younger generation. So I urge you, I ask you, have to tell your children, quý ông, quý bà, quý bác, quý cô phải nói với con cháu của chúng ta đi coi cuốn phim Ride the Thunder. Ngày 11 tháng 10, October 11, chúng tôi có một buổi tiếp tân gây quỹ để ra mắt bộ phim Ride the Thunder ở Dallas và ở Garland và ở Grand Prairie. Chúng tôi sẽ có quảng cáo để cho quý vị biết được ngày nào chúng tôi sẽ trình chiếu bộ phim Ride the Thunder ở Arlington và ở Garland, Grand Prairie. Xin quý vị hãy đón nghe những cái tin tức đó. Richard, I know that you spend a lot of time on this book and the movie, especially your lifetime saving. So would you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I feel like I was called by God to do this. I'm an American Marine, but I served after Vietnam. But this is my mission in life, to help get history right. This is a film that, it's not just for the Vietnamese. This is a film that will help heal and affirm the American veteran who served honorably in Vietnam. This is meant to affirm them. When they come out of here, they should be crying tears of joy and feel better about what they did, because it's also a chance for the Vietnamese, through our main character, to thank the Americans for their sacrifice. Americans have a tendency to look at things only through the American prism. This film gives the American fighting men who've served honorably a chance to see what their sacrifice meant to the Vietnamese. So often, they don't think about that. America paid a big price in Vietnam. 58,000 men killed, hundreds of thousands wounded, and everybody with psychological trauma. 250,000 Vietnamese, South Vietnamese warriors were killed. I don't know how many million civilians were killed, and then how many died escaping. We know communism is bad because so many people risked everything. They were willing to die rather than live under communism. So this is a powerful story. We hope to set the historical record straight. This is just round one.
Right.
I mean, we're only beginning the fight. We hope that this will lead us to a television series, and maybe other people will come forward with films that are positive and truthful, not the lies that we've been told for years and years.
You sent me the Ride the Thunder in English version. So do you have any subtitle?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do now have the subtitle version. The
That's
Vietnamese
perfect.
For the older Vietnamese, we want to make sure that the message is powerful and correct.
Great. So when do you think that you can roll out to Dallas? We anxious to roll it out for you.
We're working now to get theaters, so we're hoping to be here sometime in October, if God willing.
Xin có vài ý kiến nói với lại khán giả của tại SPTN Dallas, đặc biệt là các bà mẹ, các bà vợ, các phụ nữ Việt Nam nói chung. Quý vị là những người đã hy sinh rất nhiều trong cuộc chiến Việt Nam. Thường quý vị đã phải chờ đợi người chồng của mình, và đôi lúc các quý vị chỉ chờ những cái quan tài, hoặc là những người đi về mà đã mất đi một phần thân thể. Đây là những cái sự hy sinh lớn lao mà thế hệ sau cần biết tới. Thành ra hy vọng quý vị sẽ kêu gọi, quý vị sẽ đến xem bộ phim và kêu gọi con em quý vị đến xem, để từ đó cái thế hệ sau có thể hiểu rõ những cái sự hy sinh lớn lao mà quý vị đã dành để tạo cho tương lai hạnh phúc cho con em của quý vị. And như anh Richard đã nói, mình cảm thấy rằng anh Richard là một người Mỹ, nhưng anh đã bỏ tiền bạc riêng ra để đầu tư cho cuốn phim này, để lấy lại danh dự cho những người lính Mỹ, và đặc biệt là những người lính Việt Nam Cộng Hòa trong cuộc chiến Việt Nam. Và qua đó anh cũng đã giúp được những thông điệp cho những thế hệ trẻ người Việt sinh ra tại đất nước Mỹ này. Thành ra chúng ta có một cái nhiệm vụ để tiếp tục giúp anh ta thành công trong cái project, cái dự án này của anh ta.
This is a film for you, but it's also for everybody who loves America, who loves freedom, who values freedom. So I would ask that the Vietnamese would bring all their non-Vietnamese American friends, because this is a film that will affirm everybody who has sacrificed to make America a better country. America was right in Vietnam. America is the best country in the world. It's always been the best country in the world. There's not even a close second. We've been the good guys, we are the good guys, and we're blessed also. The upside of the Vietnam War, Dan, is we have 2 million Vietnamese American citizens who love freedom more than almost everybody else. They've paid a price for it.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Come.
Kính thưa quý vị, buổi hội luận ngày hôm nay với anh Richard Botkin và anh Tuấn Nguyễn từ Florida đến đây đã chấm dứt. Chúng tôi xin cảm tạ quý vị và các bạn. Hẹn quý vị và các bạn đến chương trình kỳ tới. Xin mời các anh say goodbye to the audience. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you very much.